Welcome to another video of Toyota GR86 Performance. Today we are going to be analyzing what happens when you are replacing your oil filters at a very frequent interval when you first get the vehicle. Here I have the first 4 filters that I used. This is the original one that came with the vehicle, second filter, third filter, fourth filter, and there is only a couple of thousand of miles difference between all of these. So this is only like 3,000 miles worth of driving, and I wanted to show you guys what it looks like. Actually, I think it's around 6, but I'll give you the mileages for all of these. So first thing is a quick little comparison. This little short guy right here, this is what you get with the vehicle when you buy it new. As you can see, because it's a new vehicle, they're trying to save money. They're giving you a nice short filter, but these are the ones that you buy from Subaru as replacements or Toyota or whatever. And this is a Gazoo Racing Performance oil filter. There's the part number if you're curious. I have a whole video tearing these 2 filters down, actually the Toyota version and this GR version, to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, the anti-drain back valvage, all that fun stuff inside. So first thing first, we're actually going to be using one of these tools to cut open each of these filters and take a look on the inside and see what we can find and see what's going on when you're doing a bunch of frequent oil changes. Hopefully there's nothing there, but we're about to find out together, aren't we? These filters, filter cutter actually works pretty simply. Basically, you're going to get it in here. There's bearings right there that it rides on, and you're just gonna use that little blade right there. It's gonna get pushed in just like that, and it's gonna cut the filter open. You're just gonna spin it like this on here with the blade applying pressure, and as you can see, there's already a small scoring mark. You're gonna slowly apply more pressure as you spin it, and it's gonna cut it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut all of these filters off camera, and I'll come back and show you guys what they look like inside. There. Now that we went ahead and opened this up, let's go over the mileage. So this one, the very first filter that the vehicle came with, oil change was done at 659 miles, 1586 miles, 3,330 miles, 6,652 miles. So basically this one has 927 miles of 659 miles of usage on it. This one has 927 miles of usage. This one has 1,744 miles of usage. And this one has 3,322 miles of usage. So let's go ahead and work our way backwards. So again, this is the GR filter. When you open it up, very heavy construction on this. You get your little anti-drain back valve here, if you guys are wondering what this is. Basically, on these, they all have it here. What it does is it seals up against this because the oil will go in through these smaller holes. It'll get filtered through the element on the outside of the element, and then it'll come back out of this bigger hole here. So when the oil goes in, it seals up against this so it can't drain back out because this silicone seal is here. This is your anti-drain back valve if you're curious. And looks like this filter has retained a whole lot of oil in there, even though I literally had these sitting upside down for months. It's been a hot minute. There's quite a bit of oil in here. As you can see, the anti-drain back valve works just fine. There's plenty of oil, even though I actively tried to get it out. Let's go ahead and take a look. This one has a metal case construction on it, unlike these guys. You'll see later. Actually, these do. The Subaru ones do have a metal case construction. Interesting. The Toyota version of this filter, by the way, if you get it from Toyota, instead of metal here, it's all paper with like a glued portion on it. So actually, I'll say the Subaru filter is better than the Toyota one for the GR86. Let's take a look on the inside. I shouldn't expect to find anything inside of these. This is a very hard paper. It's kind of hard to look in there. Let's just tear open multiple spots. See if we can find anything in there. So far, it's very clean. I don't see any shiny bits of metal. I don't see any bearing material. I don't see any RTV. So this one looks very clean. No abnormalities. Nothing. I would say that the filter did its job here. And because we replaced it often enough here, there's nothing inside of this. Now let's go a little bit older. This filter was replaced at 3,330 miles. So it has 1,744 miles on this filter. This one has an anti-drain back valve, but unlike the GR filter, this one is feeling really thin and flimsy, and the GR one is like thick. This thing is just thicker and stiffer, and the design is a bit different. Like you can see here, this is the Subaru one and this is the Toyota GR one. You can see the design is different here, and this just feels flimsy. Keep in mind, this still has a ton of oil in there after it's been sitting upside down for it to drain out for a long time. This one's practically almost empty. So this anti-drain back valve in the GR filter works better than the Subaru one does. But let's go ahead and just take a look inside the Subaru filter. This one's clean, as we should expect it to. I don't see anything inside the filter pleats. I don't see any bearing material. I don't see any metal shavings. This one overall looks pretty good. There's a little bit of RTV right there. You see that? So this one caught some RTV. Keep in mind that this filter was installed immediately after the oil pan baffle that I replaced. But that looks like a light gray RTV, likely from the cam carriers, not necessarily from the, there it is, not necessarily from the oil pan baffle that I installed, because I use a dark black. It's Rhinzo Seal or Rhinzo Seal. It's very black. That's a dark gray, so that's probably from the cam carriers. But this filter, other than that, looks pretty good. I don't see any damage or anything like that. I don't see any extra garbage in there. Now these two filters, especially the first one, is where we should find the most trash inside of it. But this next filter here is, again, another Subaru filter. These two filters right here, these two are identical. Let's take a look inside of it, because this one was changed at 1,856 miles. As you can see, this one's been sitting upside down for a longer period of time, so it's completely drained out. But this one was changed at 1,586 miles, so it has 927 miles of use, because this is filter number 2. Kind of start near the beginning. I don't see anything down there. Again, nothing in there. Just check some random pleats. Not going to check every single one. Nothing. See if I can kind of see anything with my eyes and open up the pleats where I think I see something. There's a tiny little sparkle back there. It's very hard to pick up on camera. There it is. You can see it towards the back over there. It's a small sparkle. Could be a little piece of engine break-in, because the engine, oh, here we go. This is easier. Let me just break them. Could be a little piece of engine break-in. There's another one right there. There's little bits. So keep in mind, the engine only had 1,586 miles on it when this filter was replaced. So it's going to have some material in there, which is kind of the point of this video, is when your vehicle's engine is brand new, you actually want to replace the oil and the filters pretty frequently in the very beginning, because you want to be getting metal like that out of your engine as soon as possible. And you don't want to let that stuff sit around to the 6,500, 7,500 oil replacement interval. You want to replace it as soon as possible. And we're probably going to find a lot more in this first oil filter. This is the original one that came with the vehicle. Again, it's got that same flimsy drain back valve that these all have, because they're all Subaru. The GR drain back valve is superior. It is much more robust, much thicker. The flap where it seals against the oil is much nicer than the Subaru garbage. So I'm going to stick with these filters for my own personal use. You guys can do what you want. As you can see, it didn't fully drain out, even though it's the original one. I don't see too much. You can see some garbage. Let me set this off to the side. So in the oil inside the filter casing, where you kind of get out of the way, do you see that over there? So some of that, a little bit of that could be from me cutting it open. It's currently sitting down there, but some of that is engine break-in. But everything that's in these pleats is going to be from engine break-in. So let's try to really tear this one apart. and get into it as much as we can. Oh, yep, I can immediately, first pleat, I can see RTV. I can see some gunk in there. This is the filter that came with the car. Yeah, you can just see the different amounts of little specks of garbage in there. You can see all kinds of garbage. You see that? It's a little difficult. Try to get it to focus there, but maybe I'll zoom in here. But you can see like bits of junk, red junk. I don't know what that is. It's pretty obvious that that has nothing to do with me cutting this open, because that would have been silver. That was like orange, red, or whatever that was. You can see little pieces of RTV here, like really small ones. So those are the type bits of RTV that will get past your engine oil strainer. It'll get right past it and get inside of the oil pump, and then luckily this picks it up after the pump, because it goes oil pump and then immediately oil filter before it goes into your main bearings and all that. There's all kinds of junk in there. You can see just trash. And this thing is trying to filter out as much garbage as it can. Like every single one of these that I open, there's trash in there. I see bits of RTV. I see small little red specks, whatever those are. Yeah, I see like small bits of black RTV in every single one of these. Right here, here's a good amount of that red stuff I'm talking about. You see that in the middle right there? This is the engine's break-in filter. And there's just more garbage in every pleat that I open. Every single one that I open, I see trash. Every single one after another. I open them and I see garbage in there. It's like really small things. But I see small little tiny bits of metal from engine break-in, like tiny little shavings from manufacturing. I see that red stuff in almost every pleat. So here's the whole point of this video. Why am I doing this? This took me, I don't know, my vehicle has like 8,000 miles on it now. Gone through many oil filters, gone through a lot of oil. The whole point of this is me trying to show you guys why it's important to do frequent oil changes when you get a brand new vehicle. And also the reason why you don't want to go too many miles between oil changes. Here's the logic behind it. When your vehicle is brand new, you want to replace the oil pretty frequently. I tried to go for 500 miles when the vehicle has 500 miles on the odometer. I didn't get there. I was a little busy. I changed it at 659. Then I changed it at 1586. Then I changed it at 3,320. And from there, I like to change it every 3,300 miles. So this was changed at basically 66. When my vehicle hits 10,000 or 9,999, I'll change it again. So for every 10,000 miles, I'll break that into 3 sections and I'll do an oil change every 3,300 miles. I think that's a pretty safe area to be. Now, if you're tracking your vehicle a little more often, you actually want to replace your oil far more frequently than that. As long as your differential fluid, your transmission gear oil, a lot of other things need to be replaced when you're tracking your vehicle. It's currently February, it's 28 degrees outside. I have like 4 inches of snow, so I'm not tracking it. So I'm still using the 0W20, kind of allowing this engine to fully settle. My whole point is that you want to be replacing your oil filters to get all the junk out. As you saw in the second filter, there was a lot less junk. In the third filter, there was far less, barely anything. And then by the fourth one, it's clean. There's no junk, no garbage, no nothing. And this is really cheap insurance. You don't want to be constantly trying to take the first engine oil filter, which, by the way, is much smaller than even the cheap oil filter from Subaru. Like this thing's got like an additional 3/4 of an inch or almost an inch of height here, because there's more filter material. It cleans it better. So if you don't want to change your oil, at 500 miles, at 1,000 miles, when your vehicle's brand new, here's what I recommend you do. At a bare minimum, if you're not going to be changing your oil every 3,000 miles, at least change the filter and add the oil that you're losing from the filter coming out. So at a bare minimum, replace your filter every 3,000 miles. And then at your oil change interval, go ahead and do your oil change at that point. That's if you're trying to save some money, because these filters, you can get them for like $6, $10 at AutoZone or whatever. Obviously not a Subaru one, but one that is compatible, and that'll at least give you some protection. If you're like me, you're a little more obsessive. I do every 3,300 miles. Keep in mind, if you're doing track days, very hard driving, or adverse conditions, as your manual states, you really need to be changing this far more frequently. And to kind of continue on with my entire explanation of why oil changes are important, here we have my 24 GR86 Subaru 2.4 liter. I've been using 020. So this is an oil analysis report, if those of you that are kind of familiar with it. Sadly, I wasn't able to send them all my samples at the 3,000 something mark. I forgot to send them my samples. So I have the analysis at 659, 927, and 6,652 miles. So here's what's going on. These are your universal averages. Here's the different types of metals, and you have like antifreeze and what it should be, what you have and whatnot. Here's your values, what they should be, right? So at the 659 mile mark, I had a whole lot of copper, probably from bearings. I had a whole lot of moly in there. I had, quite a bit of manganese, which eventually went to 0. Location averages should be 0 for this. You can see here that, for example, over here on silicon, it went from 383 to 165 at the 927 mile oil change, and then it dropped down to 34. The averages are 34 parts per million, or whatever the actual value is. So the whole point of doing oil changes and also getting information like this, so you can actually tell what's happening with your oil as well as your engine. For example, if you're having antifreeze in your engine, you're having a blown head gasket or something's going on to where the coolant is mixing in with your oil. Same thing with water. For example, if you're having fuel getting mixed into your engine oil, it might be that you're getting excessive blow-by and your piston rings might be starting to go bad, or you're using a very poor quality fuel to where you have too much fuel in there. Should be less than 2. Mine's less than 0.5 the entire time, so that's fine. But basically, something like this, like an analysis report, it doesn't have to be Blackstone. I'm not sponsored. I pay them to do my oil analyses. But my point is, analysis reports like this, as well as cutting open your oil filters and taking a look on the inside, kind of give you an idea of what's going on with the engine. For me personally, you can see here that it's stabilized. All of my values are stable now. Everything's good. Everything is below the values should be. For example, 46 to 57 and 47.2. That's great. The viscosity is amazing. Viscosity is excellent throughout my entire oil changes. The flash point, which is the point where, if I remember correctly, flash point is when something will combust. So 400, 395, 410 should be greater than 385. So that's good. Fuel, you should have less than 2%. I'm less than 0.5%. Antifreeze should be 0. You should never have antifreeze in your oil. Mine's always been 0, which means my head gaskets are fine. Water, everything's good. Everything's fantastic. But my point is, when you're taking your oil filter off, go ahead and buy one of those tools. I bought a cheap one from Amazon. Go ahead, submit an oil analysis report. I forget what the cost of this is. It's not much. It adds very little to your oil change cost if you're doing it yourself, but I think an oil analysis report is very invaluable information for you. Plus, here's another reason to think about it. If you have oil analysis reports for your particular vehicle, the entire life of your vehicle, like let's just say you have an expensive vehicle, right? If you should decide to sell it, having an oil analysis report with the constant mileages will show when your oil was changed, also a little bit of more proof that, hey, you're changing your oil. But on top of that, constantly having a report like this should increase the value of your vehicle should you not have any issues. So if your vehicle's fine, you're not having any problems down here, you're not having excessive bearing wear or anything like that, you can actually prove it to the future owner and be like, hey, the bearings are good, the head gaskets are good, everything's good, and something like this can increase the value of your vehicle, helping you resell it in the future. Me personally, I don't plan on selling this. I plan on getting a much nicer vehicle in the future and turning this into a dedicated track vehicle. But that's, shall we say, plans. We'll see what happens. But anyways, hopefully the tearing apart of the oil filters, the oil analysis sheets here, and hopefully a little bit of my opinions / insights. I do work as a mechanic professionally. Hopefully that kind of helps you out just a little bit to give you a better idea as to what's happening and why you should care about oil changes, why you should care about your oil reports and that. And hopefully this kind of gives you more insight, a little more information, a little more knowledge for you guys to understand what's happening inside of your engine during the combustion cycle. On top of all that, I want to thank you for watching this video. I know sometimes this is a bit of a longer one, a little more talking, a little less showing, just kind of more explanatory in a sense. I hope you guys found this a little more entertaining. If you like content like this, consider subscribing. I have a lot of performance mods, installation, power goodies coming in the future, but we'll see what happens. I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed the video and have yourself a nice day. Thank you.